In this issue, let's take a look at a high-scoring suspense film starring Will Smith, Enemy of the State. This morning, Congressman Hammersley came to the lake to walk his dog as usual. But he saw Thomas, the director of the National Security Agency, waiting for him. Not waiting for Thomas to speak, Hammersley knew that Thomas was here for the Telecom Security and Privacy Act. Hammersley believed that this bill seriously violated the people's right to privacy. So he wouldn't vote yes. Thomas said he did not ask Hammersley to vote yes. Just asked him to let go, don't interfere in the affirmative votes anymore. But Hammersley insisted that he would not let the bill pass. Thomas kept saying that this bill was for national security considerations. In fact, he was doing it for his political future. If this bill was passed, he could become deputy director of the NSA. Thomas saw that Hammersley didn't know what's good and what's bad, so killed Han. The male protagonist Dean was a lawyer, and he took over a labor dispute involving a gang. If he followed normal procedures, this lawsuit would take a long time. So he asked Rachel to get a videotape that could make the gang leader bow his head. Rachel and Dean were college classmates. Behind her there was a mysterious expert named Brill. As long as he needed it, he could get the surveillance video of the target person. Dean also won a lot of lawsuits with the help of the expert. He was very curious about this expert, but Rachel was still reluctant to disclose more information about Brill. Dean showed the videotape of the crime evidence to the gang leader. The gang leader was dismissive, but he was released currently on bail. And the FBI was also monitoring him. If Dean handed the tape to the prosecutor, the gang leader would go to jail. So the gang leader had to agree to pay indemnity to Dean's client. But he asked Dean to hand over the person who took the video within the time limit. Otherwise, Dean would suffer a calamity. Faced with threats, Dean was not afraid and bought Christmas gifts for his family. Hammersley's body was found here. Because Hammersley had heart surgery, he also found a medicine bottle on his body. Therefore, the police inferred that Hammersley died of a heart attack that caused his vehicle to run out of control and rushed into the lake. Thomas was worried and sent someone to the scene to secretly follow the case. Through the telescope, he observed a person taking out a camera from the box by the lake. Then through the license plate number, it was found that the Zavitz was a nature photographer who was studying the migration habits of wild geese. So he put a highly sensitive optical motion sensor camera in the observation box. Unfortunately, the camera was aimed at the small pier on the opposite bank. It was very possible to photograph the murderer of Hammersley. Thomas didn't allow any mistakes in this matter, so he asked his confidant to send surveillance experts and envoy satellites to support the recovery of the videotape. To deceive others, they declared to the participants that it was a training operation. The Zavitz read the news while collating video materials at home. The news claimed that Hammersley died of heart disease. But Zavitz saw the murder of Hammersley from the video. He immediately called the editor of the newspaper and prepared to copy a videotape to send. After Thomas listened to Zavitz's call and confirmed that he had a videotape in his hand, he sent someone to Zavitz's residence immediately. Zavitz discovered the abnormal situation ahead of time and fled from the roof with a copy of the image data. With the help of satellite surveillance, Thomas's men chased Zavitz all the way. The Zavitz ran across the street in a panic into a lingerie shop. Dean was shopping for Christmas gifts for his wife in the store. Zavitz and Dean were college classmates. Dean stopped him when he saw Zavitz and handed him a business card. The waiter came over and interrupted the conversation between the two. Zavitz saw that the chaser was approaching, so he slipped the videotape into Dean's shopping bag and rushed out of the store. He ran to the street and grabbed a bicycle to escape. Unfortunately, he was hit by a speeding car and died on the spot. Dean saw Zavitz killed on the street and couldn't help feeling sympathy for him. Thomas's people found out there was only Dean's business card on the Zavitz, no videotape. At the same time, they found the original videotape at Zavitz's house. But one copy was unknown. It was speculated that the copy should be in Dean's hands now. They called out the monitoring of the underwear shop and saw, Zavitz did put something in Dean's shopping bag. But it was hard to judge if it was a videotape or not. So Thomas's people dressed as detectives came to ask Dean. They lied that Zavitz was involved in a threatening case, and suspected that he gave some sensitive information to Dean before his death. Then they asked to check Dean's shopping bag. Dean said that the Zavitz didn't give him anything. He refused to be searched by police detectives without seeing the warrant. Thomas's people saw that Dean was not easy to control, so they left. After they left, Dean took out the shopping bag suspiciously but didn't find anything. Thomas guessed that there were three possibilities in the current situation. Or Dean was going to make the videotape publicly, so he refused to be searched. Or Zavitz gave him the videotape, but he still didn't know. Or maybe he didn't have the videotape. But no matter what kind of possibility, they needed to make sure everything was okay. They knew that Dean's recent labor dispute was related to the gang. He and Rachel were probably lovers in college. There were still ambiguities in private and financial exchanges. So Thomas planned to start with these situations so that Dean had no possibility of leaking the secrets. The first step was monitoring Dean's every move to understand and master his life. Thomas's people sneaked into the house while Dean's family was out and installed a monitor. They searched for shopping bags but did not find the videotape. When they left, they smashed the house and made it an illusion that the gang retaliated against Dean. The next day they adjusted Dean's watch, cell phone, and pen. Because the items were the same, Dean didn't notice. Then Thomas's people used the media to spread rumors that Dean participated in the money laundering activities of the gang, and disclosed his relationship with Rachel. They did this to destroy Dean's reputation. Even if Dean released the videotape in the future, no one would believe him. Dean was expelled from the law firm because of his involvement with the gang. His wife was very annoyed when she saw the newspaper. Because Dean cheated on Rachel 4 years ago, so the wife was convinced that they still had a warm relationship. Dean was kicked out of the house by his wife. He came to the hotel to rent a room but found that all the cards were disabled. Dean believed that his life's chaos was related to the videotape of the gang leader. So he asked Rachel to talk about Brill. After Thomas's people listened to their meeting place, they watched and recorded their words and deeds in the square in advance. So they also knew that there was a mysterious person behind them. Rachel told Dean that when she contacted Bai, she used chalk to mark the postbox in front of her house. After Brill responded, she would go to find him on the ferry. Rachel helped Dean make an appointment with Bai, but Dean did not see anyone on the ferry. When Dean got off the ferry in the bathroom, a man suddenly came to him. The man claimed that he was the person Dean was looking for and found the earphones mounted on the soles of Dean's shoes. The man disguised as a taxi driver and took Dean into the car. The man in the car kept asking Dean, what did Zavitz say to him before he died? Dean said repeatedly that the beard said nothing or gave him anything. At this time, a car was coming from behind. The man told Dean to tell the truth, otherwise he wouldn't be able to help Dean. But Dean really didn't know anything. Suddenly an old man in a wheelchair came to the middle of the road. The man couldn't dodge and collided with other vehicles. At this moment the man suddenly took out his gun and aimed at Dean. Dean quickly fought back and got out of the car and ran to a hotel. It turns out that this man was sent by Thomas's to confirm Dean's words. Although Dean escaped, he still has 6 trackers on him. His every move was still under Thomas's control. At this time an old man took a gun and forced Dean into the elevator. In the elevator, the old man took out the screen. Then he found the signal tracker in Dean's pen, phone, and shoes. Then he took Dean to the roof of the hotel. It turned out that this talent was Brill, and he blamed Dean for not looking for him on the ferry. Because Dean had been fully monitored by a security guy, Dean was confused and wondered what was going on. Brill said he didn't know or didn't want to know. He asked Dean to stay away from him and Rachel. At this moment, the NSA helicopter was flying towards them. Brill realized that there was a signal transmitter on Dean. He told Dean to throw away everything on his body and all his clothes. And he disappeared without a trace after speaking. Dean didn't know, so he threw away his watch and hid in the hotel. After Thomas's people found that Dean's signal was abnormal, they sent someone to the hotel to check. They easily found Dean's trail through satellite images. Dean had nowhere to escape and hid in the guest's room. At this moment he remembered Brill's words and quickly took off his clothes. So far, all the trackers on his body were removed. But Dean still had nowhere to hide under satellite surveillance equipment. Dean ran over the balcony to the workshop on the other floor. He put the ignition under the smoke detector to trigger the fire alarm. Dean wanted to create chaos and then took the opportunity to escape. But he accidentally caused the whole room to catch fire. Fortunately, the fire brigade arrived in time to rescue him. Thomas's people were afraid of the exposure of the action and did not dare to act rashly and had to follow the ambulance. After waking up in the ambulance, Dean threatened the paramedics to park and got out of the car and escaped. Thomas's people chased into the tunnel. Dean entered the sub-underground tunnel through inspection. When the opponent entered the underground tunnel to intercept, Dean quickly climbed to the ground through the maintenance entrance. The tracker followed closely but was unable to catch up in time due to heavy traffic on the ground. When they came to the ground thinking they finally caught Dean, he unexpectedly played a trick with a worker on the side of the road. By now Dean was free from the surveillance of Thomas's people. In the morning Dean's wife followed the puppy to the utility room in the yard. Dean appeared before his wife to explain to her what happened, and said the home has been tapped. For safety, he hoped his wife would take his son back to his natal house. He wouldn't come back until he settled the matter. Dean and his wife became reconciled. She reminded Dean when she mentioned Christmas gifts. Maybe the thing Zavitz gave him was taken away by his son as a Christmas present. Dean thought that the nanny's car wasn't tapped, so he hid in the nanny's car. She asked the nanny to drive halfway to pick up the son who had not yet arrived at school. The son returned the gift to Dean. Dean saw it was a videotape. When he went to find Rachel, he saw a surveillance car from the NSA on the street. So he called the police and reported that there was a suspicious vehicle selling drugs. The people in the surveillance car knew that they had been reported and did not want to be questioned by the police and had to leave. After the monitor car left, Dean used Rachel's method to meet Brill. Then he turned the window and entered Rachel's house. What he didn't expect was that Rachel had been killed. The purpose of leaving Dean's clothes on the scene was to frame him. Dean became the criminal suspect, so it's better to find Thomas. Dean met Brill at the dock and told him that Rachel had been killed, and said that he finally found what the NSA wanted. Brillman didn't want to help Dean, but but thought of Rachel's death. He should have made the NSA pay for it, so he changed his mind and helped Dean. Brill had low blood sugar and needed constant food supplements. Driving halfway, he came to the convenience store to buy things and asked Dean to wait for him in the car. Dean thought that the newspaper would accuse him of killing Rachel. He was afraid of his wife's misunderstanding again, so he used public electricity to call his wife's friend. He asked her to go to the house and tell his wife that he didn't do this. Dean thought he would not be monitored by using a public phone. But he didn't know that the government's surveillance was pervasive. It was this call that required him and Brill's whereabouts. Brill didn't know that Dean called secretly. He took Dean to the secret base where he worked. Brill told Dean that the more technology products he used, the easier it was to be monitored. He did not have a phone or cable here, so he would never be tapped. Thomas's people obtained Brill's facial recognition information based on surveillance in the convenience store. At the same time, we found Brill's hiding place based on nearby satellite photos. Brill opened the video and saw the murder of a member of Congress. Only then did Dean understand why the NSA was chasing him. At this time, the alarm sounded. Brill found out that people from the NSA had chased here. Brill was very angry. He knew that Dean must have called secretly to reveal his position. But Brill had taken precautions early. After he activated the time bomb, he took Dean and a small bridge to drive away. It exploded as soon as they left the building. Thomas's people drove over and tried to stop them. Dean shot the opponent and freed himself from the pursuit. At this time, their car also caught fire. They could only abandon the car and run away on foot. The worst was that the videotape had been burned out. Brill complained that Dean's stupidity killed Rachel, and now Dean made him expose his hidden identity for many years. But now, Brill and Dean could only survive if they worked together. They grabbed a car and came to a restaurant. Brill told Dean that he had worked for the NSA and monitored international calls. But later he and his partner were hunted down due to international political reasons. In the end, only he escaped, and his partner was Rachel's father. So he took care of Rachel. Brill persuaded Dean to disappear incognito, so as not to hurt the family and friends. Dean said he would not choose to disappear, he wanted to be with his family. To take back his life. Dean's courage and love for his family moved Brill. He decided to help Dean fight back together. But now they didn't have any videotapes of Thomas's crime. They could only induce him to confess his guilt and record it as evidence. So Brill used the videotape as bait to make an appointment with Thomas. To be safe, Brill put on a police uniform when meeting. He expected Thomas would not cause himself trouble by shooting the policeman in the street. Thomas's people searched Brill to prevent wiretapping, but Brill had arrangements. Dean turned on the microphone to record when he saw his signal. Brill induces Thomas to admit that he killed the senator and Rachel, but Thomas did not get involved. Dean was very anxious because Brill told him Thomas's people would scan the nearby frequencies and find him in 5 or 6 minutes. So Dean must leave after 4 minutes of recording. Seeing that 4 minutes had passed but no useful information had been recorded. At this time, Thomas's people had found Dean's position. Brill told Dean to flee, but it was too late when Dean opened the door and was knocked to the ground. Then Brill was also caught in the monitor car. Thomas pointed a gun at Brill's head and asked where the videotape was. When Dean saw this, he said he had put the videotape in a restaurant. When he came to the restaurant, Brill found that this was the restaurant of the gang leader. He was happy to understand Dean's intentions, but he was also worried about his adventurous actions. Dean brought Thomas and the others to the gang head county. Thomas asked the gang leader to hand over the videotape. The gang leader thought the other party was the one who took the video of his crime. He wouldn't hand over his evidence. Besides, he had paid for this videotape. However, Thomas and the gangster didn't know that the tapes they were talking about were not the same thing. This was Dean's plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The 2 sides were deadlocked and the gun battle was about to start. The people in the monitor car saw this scene and didn't know what to do. They also rushed into the restaurant under Brill's counsel. At this moment, Thomas was afraid of the situation. Unexpectedly, a gunshot caused the scene to get out of control and the 2 sides fired at each other. After a while, Thomas and the gang leader were both shot dead. Brill saw Dean unscathed from the monitor and left quietly holding the cat. When Thomas was in the car to ask Brill about the whereabouts of the videotape, he told that he was the murderer of Hammersley in the Senate. And these conversations were recorded by a technician. His explanation for this was, didn't he say that it was a drill training action? In the end, the Telecom Security and Privacy Act did not come to an end. Dean and his family finally returned to their former happy life. Watching this movie makes me feel deeply that it's great to be a normal person. Although only the tip of the iceberg is shown in the film, it is enough to make people feel desperate. No thought of revolt. Alright, this issue is here, don't forget to like and follow. Thanks for watching, see you next time.